Hello everyone, I'm Ashley Jordan from One Stop Organisers, and I help you and your older loved ones to live your best lives by making sure that your home is the right home for you, so downsizing, decluttering, right-sizing, and also looking after that admin that gets a bit pesky as you get older and a bit confusing and maybe boring and takes up all your energy, and also helping older people get competent with their digital devices.
Brilliant, thank you. Claire.
Claire, hello, I'm Claire. I own 4 home care franchises in South West London and Surrey. We help older people stay at home. So those who don't want to go into a care home, who don't need to go into a care home, we provide the support that they need from the very early stages right up until end of life.
Thank you. Annabel.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name's Annabel James, and I'm the founder of agespace.org. The shorthand is Mum's Net for the Middle-Aged. I found when my parents were tipped over, incredibly hard to know how to support them because it's all really complicated. It's not just about the care. It's about the financing, and it's about the legals. And if you don't know the question, you ain't going to find the answer. So we try and guide people, give them resources and the support that they need to help their parents live their best life, whether that's at home with more support or with dementia, etc. So, that's what we do.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome to all 3 of you. And I know we've just got such a great resource here that's available both locally but also sort of nationwide, because Home Instead is available across the country. Forgive me, across the world, right? Is there no limit to your talents, Claire? Right. So a lot of today is about getting those conversations started, and in the sort of the whole sort of arena of care, it's no different. And I guess within families, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because when you as a adult child, you're so used to being the one sort of taking direction from your parents as you grow up, and when you start to have those conversations, it's that kind of shift in relationship, isn't it? It's that shift in control. It's that beginning of loss of independence. So I guess, Claire, in the world that you're in, because you see it at the coalface in people's homes, is how do you start those conversations? How do you have those tricky topics?
They're tricky. As you said, they're really tricky. Because when are you old? What age are you old? That's the question, isn't it? Who feels old in this room?
Some days, yes.
Some. When are you old? When do you need to start thinking about the fact that you need help? That day when you had to get glasses, which you constantly wear on the top of your head because you don't want to admit that you actually need to wear them full time. When you find that first grey hair, when are you old? We look after people who are over 100, we look after people who are in their 60s, and some of them are taking huge amounts of medication and some of them aren't taking any. And that's the over 100s that aren't taking many, to be honest with you. So how do you start that conversation? It's really difficult because you can't force anybody to do anything. You can't, particularly if you're a son or a daughter, they really, really won't listen to you if you're asking them to do something for you, for them. So as you said, so you've got to start early. You've got to start planting that seed really, really early, because people, amazingly, like you said, will accept a cleaner and they'll pay good money for a cleaner to come in, but they won't have a carer. I don't need care. So change the language that you use. Change the language and suggest that somebody comes in to help, to support, to offer you a trip out or a little bit of home help. Don't use the word carer, is my advice to start with. But have those conversations as early as you possibly can. And if you flip it to, can you be helping me, Mum? Can you help me feel comfortable that you're okay at home? You might get some traction there.
Very good, but I guess you can have those conversations. You can you can try and weave them in sort of diplomatically and tactically, as it were. But what if you've got a parent who's just really bloody minded and adamant, and just won't take it? How do you kind of?
I have a mother-in-law who is exactly that.
Yeah.
She lost my father-in-law during COVID. Would she have a key safe? No. Would she have a pendant alarm? No. Wouldn't she? her response to everything was, I'll think about it. And she's still thinking about it at the age of 87. She's got a son and a daughter-in-law who do this for a living. Will she listen to us? Absolutely not. And it will take a fall. It will take, she's got a bit of a chest infection at the moment. It will take that developing into pneumonia and her going into hospital before she will do anything about it. We cannot do anything to make that woman have care. So the answer is you can't do anything. All you can do is plant the seed and encourage, unfortunately.
So Annabel, I mean, I guess sort of most people want to stay at home for as long as they possibly can. And of course, there's lots of options out there that we'll talk about. But what are some of the things in the community that we need to know about that can help and can enable people to stay at home?
Yeah, I think the great thing is that there is an extraordinary network of support and organisations operating really locally quite often. So, whether that be toenail clipping from Age UK or shopping or befriending. And I think it is, it's putting the support networks in place that maybe don't smack of care, whatever that may be. And I think one of the ways we try and encourage people is to actually think about a bit of a driver is people wanting to retain their independence at home and continue to do the things they do, the things that they love, without interference from that daughter who keeps phoning or keeps, popping round. So I think as much as you can do to sort of help keep them independent, whether that, and, in terms of what you do, I think a third of the over 65s end up in hospital as a result of a fall. So a fall around the home usually. So, there are some really basic, simple things that you can almost do without them noticing to make life a bit easier and a bit better. Because once mum goes into hospital with a hip replacement and she can't get out of hospital, then she needs Clare, it spirals so far. So I think at some level we also have to take a bit of control, and it's about agency. And that's hard as a son or a daughter. We call them the worried and the wags, the worried and guilty. What you don't want to end up doing is being on the back foot because you never catch up. So I think it is about taking that agency, and it is about looking around and doing a little bit of, in your half an hour a week when you're not worrying about the stock market in China, just considering what the local resources might be that you might, it's just about paying attention a little bit.
So back to the WAGs. What are the things that we should be worrying about, looking for, that signify there's a change? So you're there, you're worrying, but what should signify that it's time to think about the next stage, Clare?
The smell when you walk through the front door. Seriously, are they washing? Are they still in the same clothes that they were in the day before? What's in the fridge? Is there a little dink on the car that wasn't there last time you came? Is the post piling up? The newspapers piling up? You'll absolutely know when something's not quite right. And that's when it's time to take action. The attempts to do something that have failed, the cup of tea, the toast that's still in the toaster, she forgot that it was there. Those are the signs that you need to think about. There might be some help needed. The overflowing bin, you know what I'm saying, don't you?
I've heard Clare talk about this before, and I'm always slightly worried about inviting her around to my house.
I actually want a sign that says in my house, if you can see the dust, please tell me. It means I can't see it. Because it's always dirty when people can't see.
I just don't want to let you in my fridge. So Ashley, so we all accumulate a lot of belongings during our lifetime, and again, not going to sort of do any poll around the audience, but there'll be the hoarders amongst us, who just want to sort of hang on to things. I guess especially as you get to that sort of older stage in life, is how can we declutter our homes to allow us to stay at home and allow us to be in a better position when we do need to go into a care home or to the next stage?
Thanks, Sarah. I think, as we've already touched on, you probably aren't going to do it ahead of time. It's going to be when it happens, because you don't want to make the time to do it now because you're all right, thanks very much, and your parents are all right, thanks very much. So it will be when something happens. So it will be when it's a decision to downsize happens, or when a carer needs to come in and you need to have a space for them if they need to stay overnight. Any kind of emergency will bring that up. So don't beat yourself up if you're thinking, well, I really should start decluttering now, because you won't, unless you ask someone to help you, and we will come in and obviously be very happy to help you. But if you do decide you're going to do it, don't try and do a whole room in one weekend, because you're going to create more mess doing it, and then you'll be depressed by it. So just take things in bite-sized chunks and don't beat yourself up, I think is the best way.
Very good advice, thank you. Again, start small. So, Annabel, navigating the care system, unless you are part of it, I think is really challenging. You know, it's another minefield of acronyms, difficult language, just not knowing sort of how to find your way around. But I guess the question really is, and I think again, sort of thinking back to, I love this expression, WAGs, is sort of thinking back to sort of the worrying generation, the adult children, the adult daughters perhaps amongst us, is how you feel that you have the confidence that you've helped your loved one to make the right choice.
That's a really interesting question, and I think it's incredibly difficult because, as we heard earlier, the prospect of granny in a care home as the last resort, kind of how people feel about it and think about it, is horrifying, really, and none of us want that. I think it is about having those conversations earlier, if you can. We try and encourage people to have 3 conversations, not all at once, not over Sunday lunch. Where do you want to live when you're older? If you need care, what kind of care might you want? Is that somebody like Claire coming in, or do you want a nephew or somebody? And the third one is, how are you going to pay for it? And once you've had, then you start, as conversations earlier, the framework is starting to be in place. But navigating the care system is labyrinthine. But I think if you have an understanding of what somebody might wish for, I mean, where my folks lived, there was one care home in the neighbourhood that everybody wanted to go to, and only one. But we kind of understood that. So if it ever came to it, we know where they wanted to go. So I think it is really difficult. And again, it's these awful conversations that nobody wants to have.
Can I just add to that the last destination does not have to be a care home. It absolutely doesn't. You can stay at home. If you follow Jules's rules, you can be fit and well and live at home. It doesn't have to be, lovely though some of them are, and I'm looking at some people who work in care homes in the room, they are a great place for some people, but it doesn't have to be the last place that you end up.
I think that's a really, really important point, isn't it? And again, it's that living your best life for as long as you can. And I guess sort of moving on, I think this week is Dementia Action Week, if I'm not mistaken. And I know, Claire, you're a founder member of Kingston Dementia Alliance and a whole load of other dementia alliances. And I guess with your experience and knowledge, what do you think we should be asking sort of families in terms of how to make that right care option?
You can't pick dementia. You can't pick the long-term condition that you're going to have. But if one of your loved ones does end up with dementia, it's really up to you to get wise, to get the knowledge, to get the understanding of what that dementia is and how it affects your loved one. Because I could stand 100 people up in a line now who've all been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they will all present completely differently. So it's about your individual loved one and how they are living with the dementia that they have. And you need to get wise to it, because it's their dementia and you now need to go into their world. You need to change your language and you need to change your behaviours so that they and you have a better experience of dementia. So get help in understanding what that dementia is, because otherwise all you're going to do is antagonise somebody and make life really quite difficult for them as they navigate their way through the dementia journey. It's really complicated, but if you understand how it affects them and you talk to them in a language that helps them in that state, then everybody's life will be different.
Very important, very important. Thank you for that. And Ashley, my question for you is, we know that scamming is on the rise. And for those of us with sort of elderly family members, I mean, you know, we're all vulnerable to scamming. You can just see it, you know, everyday stuff landing on WhatsApp groups and things. But what can we do to sort of insulate family members against that?
It's really tricky because, as Sarah said, we can all be a victim of scamming. They are so clever, and it doesn't matter what we do. I've had friends who've suddenly realised, hang on, I think this is a scammer, and they're almost about to do something. So if it does happen to you, don't think, oh my God, I was so stupid. Don't beat yourself up. But then you think about your parents. So the world is trying to make everyone digital. Not every older person is digital, and they are probably the safest people because they haven't got all that stuff. So we're trying to make everyone do something that's actually potentially going to harm them. So the only thing you can do is just to reiterate to them, if someone contacts you that you weren't expecting to contact you in that way, assume it's a scammer. Because they'll contact you another way if they're the right person. If your bank rings you, we all know this, and you weren't expecting them to ring you. I asked them to give me some answers to some security questions. And sometimes they're like, but you can ring them back on another number, but you can't always get your older parents to remember this. So you can ask them things, you can put things in place. If they're going to fall victim, they will. The banks are brilliant, actually, at sorting these things out. So that's one thing to remember.
There was a co-op store that got scammed recently. Did anybody hear about that?
Yeah.
And they managed to get their money back because they banked with the co-op. I mean...
So nobody is not vulnerable, as it were. So you have really important advice. So I guess just to bring this session to a close, I think this is something that we all kind of aspire to, is going to ask each of you, what do you think is the key to an older age? What do you aspire to? And begin with you, Ashley.
My oldies that have the best lives are busy people who have community around them. So keep your hobbies or start a hobby and continue that hobby.
Lovely. Annabel. Ooh. Gotcha.
I would say the same. I think, yes, there's something about driving, and I can't think what it is, but keep driving for as long as possible. I think that's really, really important.
Keep driving.
It's really dangerous thing to say.
I know.
I think that might bring us back to the dent in the car. And last but by no means least, Claire.
Mine would be, don't let the old girl in. Don't start thinking you're old. Don't get up off the sofa and make that noise. Oh! Don't do it. Don't do it. You stay as young in your head as you possibly can for as long as possible, and you will remain young.
Lovely advice. Don't let the old girl in. Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking them. Well done.